Zhang Yi's harvesting moment has arrived, not only instantly killing 2 eclipsed moon experts, but also scaring Shinguji into fleeing immediately. Just moments ago, Shinguji had trapped Liao Honglei and detonated himself directly. This scene was also witnessed by Zhu Jing at the command center. After the smoke and dust cleared, everyone found that Shinguji's real body was missing. They only saw Liao Honglei, covered in blood, lying on the ground. It turned out that this was not Shinguji's real body, but a puppet made by Shinguji using a large number of talismans and explosives. Meanwhile, in the thick mist not far away, Shinguji lit a cigarette and sighed. Really, it's all thanks to that person's intel. Or else, with someone like Liao Honglei, my chances of winning wouldn't have been high. At this moment, Zhu Jing at the operations center had a grim expression. In just a few minutes, 2 vice captains had been lost. Now, they could only look at the results of Deng Shentong's side. If he wins, their sacrifice won't have been in vain. At this time, Sun Luxuan, standing beside him, looked around, adjusted his glasses, and thought, the Heavenly God team's crushing defeat has a strange smell to it. It's hard not to suspect there might be a mole among them. But seeing Zhu Jing so furious, I think I'll wait until everything settles before reporting this thought to him. At that moment, Shinguji slowly emerged from the mist, while Yakuzan and Divine Valley had already lost their fighting ability. If not for their strong bodies, they probably would have died on the spot. Shinguji quickly injected them with a healing agent and said, if it weren't for that person's help, we would have struggled to fight against the River South Domain with just our strength. After all, the River South Domain's foundation is more than just the Heavenly God team. Once Yakuzan recovered, he smiled. Anyway, in the end, we still won a great victory. Looks like Miss Takeuchi's divination was right. Though we got hurt, we're still alive and well. Just then, a flash of fire shot through the air, and the next second, a bullet pierced Yakuzan's head. Eclipsed Moon's Yakuzan was defeated. Shinguji immediately summoned the Shikigami to block in front of him, and then a second bullet came swiftly, piercing Divine Valley's forehead. Eclipsed Moon's Divine Valley was defeated. This is Zhang Yi's precise shooting ability. For the current Zhang Yi, even shooting with his eyes closed, the bullet would not deviate by even a fraction. Seeing this, Shinguji immediately ordered 3-headed hellhounds and a gorilla to attack, but Zhang Yi activated the 2-world seal, immediately pulling the 2 giant beasts into an alternate space. Shinguji was stunned. What kind of monster is this? Are my 2 Shikigami taken just like that? Zhang Yi, watching from a distance, smiled. About 400 meters, just the right distance for divine power. At this moment, Shinguji felt the threat of death. He turned around and ran without hesitation. As a stock trader, he was naturally extremely cautious. Seeing this, Zhang Yi was also stunned. Didn't expect the opponent to be so steady. Upon seeing the situation on Zhang Yi's side, the command center was left dumbfounded. They never expected that. With the Heavenly God team nearly defeated, the one who would ultimately establish a great feat would be Zhang Yi from the outer city. Zhu Zheng's eyes also sparkled with surprise. He never imagined Zhang Yi had such powerful strength. If he had known, he should have let him lead this mission. Only Bailey Changqing, standing aside, showed no change in expression, since such an outcome didn't surprise him at all. At this moment, Lan Xinqing spoke up. I think Zhang Yi's strength is still unproven. He just got lucky and killed 2 soldiers who were already beaten by Liao Honglei. Tu Yunlai disagreed with this view. Killing those 2 people isn't that surprising. The key thing is, he scared Shinguji into running away, and he defeated the eclipsed moon couple entirely relying on his own strength. Lan Xinqing continued, if he really had such great strength, why hide it? If he had acted earlier to support other battle lines, the situation might have turned out completely different. So, I think, although he has some strength, he's not fully loyal to Blizzard City. At this remark, Bailey Changqing burst into laughter. The sound was harsh in the command center, especially since they had just lost several comrades. Lan Xinqing glared angrily at Bailey Changqing. What's so funny? Bailey Changqing shrugged. I just think we shouldn't expect an outer city mutant to meet Blizzard City's standards. And among this group of outer city mutants, Zhang Yi's performance was the best. Zhu Jing impatiently shouted, enough, enough, stop causing trouble. He then picked up the communication device and called out to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, your mission is complete. Come back now. This command shocked Lan Xinqing. Zhu Jing didn't pay attention to Lan Xinqing's reaction. In his mind, Zhang Yi had exceeded expectations in completing the mission, and such a good talent must be preserved. After all, with Deng Shentong's level of battle, Zhang Yi might even hold them back if he went. If Zhang Yi could join Blizzard City in the future, he might become a captain-level force. Upon receiving the order, Zhang Yi quickly withdrew from the battlefield. Seeing this, the medics hurried to greet him, but Zhang Yi only gave them a faint smile. I'm fine. Seeing Zhang Yi return to the helicopter unharmed, everyone couldn't help but marvel. Zhang Yi, have you completed your mission? Zhang Yi thought for a moment. Zhu Zheng's order had been to support the northern front. Although he couldn't save Liao Honglei in time, he successfully finished off Yakuzan and Divine Valley. So overall, he hadn't failed the mission. He nodded and said, I suppose so. Upon hearing this, all the mutants present were stunned. Mo Zhongning looked at Zhang Yi and asked, don't tell me you took out members of Eclipsed Moon? Those guys are so strong. They're like monsters. Us outer city mutants are just cannon fodder at most. Zhang Yi didn't want to bother with them, but upon hearing their desperate tone, he couldn't help but sneer. Are the eclipsed moon guys really that strong? I don't think so. Could it be that you're just too weak? As soon as these words were spoken, the few of them immediately became annoyed. I heard you only know how to shoot from behind and provide support. What are you pretending to be a strong man here? How naive. Zhang Yi sighed helplessly, then said slowly, I just casually killed 4 eclipsed moon members. Maybe the ones I encountered were just cannon fodder. At that moment, Yuan Hao, who looked like he was about to die, suddenly sat up with a jolt. Are you joking? You really killed eclipsed moon members? 4 of them? Who would believe that? Zhang Yi didn't want to explain any further, so he ignored them. Meanwhile, the battle between Deng Shintong and Huan was about to begin. Huan stared fiercely at Deng Shintong. Once I kill you here, the old men from the River South domain should finally wake up, right? Deng Shintong provocatively waved his hand at him. Then you can try. Huan's ability was codenamed Phoenix. He started to emanate a dazzling red glow, as if a crimson star river was flowing out from his skin. An overwhelming, suffocating aura appeared around him. Let me see your power. Deng Shintong was not to be outdone. With a smile on his face, he spread his arms wide, and instantly, a holy and magnificent light exploded out from him, radiating in all directions. This caused Huan's pupils to instantly lose color. In that split second, Deng Shintong's fist was already right in front of him. You can't see anything now. Give me just 0.1 seconds, and I'll win. But to Deng Shintong's surprise, when his fist swept through, Huan instinctively blocked the blow. This caught Deng Shintong off guard. He smiled widely and coldly shouted, interesting. Deng Shintong never expected his finishing move to be blocked by Huan. This only made him more interested. Suddenly, a holy golden light began to envelop him, as if a divine being had descended. This was his ability, divine body empowerment. The powers of light and Phoenix clashed up close, and Deng Shintong's speed grew faster and faster, while his strength became even more terrifying. Soon, Deng Shintong broke through Huan's defenses, forcefully pushing aside his arm, and landed a powerful punch straight into his chest. The force even pierced through his body. This punch pierced directly through his heart. Deng Shintong mockingly said, the eclipsed moon leader is nothing special. Just at that moment, the Huan, whose chest had been pierced, slowly raised his head and revealed a bloody smile. The next moment, Huan's body began to burn. At the same time, his hands tightly grabbed Deng Shintong's arm. The temperature of the crimson flames was incredibly high. Deng Shintong was wearing Blizzard City's top-tier tech combat suit, but even so, he felt a terrifying sense of danger. He exerted all his strength to break free from Huan's grasp, retreating several meters and quickly extinguishing the flames on his arm. What the hell is this? Huan's body, after burning in the raging flames, fell to the ground with a loud bang, but the flames seemed to burn even more fiercely after he fell. A moment later, the crimson fire transformed into a fire phoenix with 3 heads, and Huan's body eerily stood up from the flames, having been reborn from the fire. Moreover, his body was completely intact, as if he had been reborn. Huan provocatively said, your ability is interesting, but it's still lacking. Deng Shintong licked the blood from his fist, eyes full of killing intent as he shouted, then I'll just kill you again. With that, Deng Shintong once again enveloped himself in holy light, and with incredible speed, he hurled a punch at Huan. This time, let's see if you die or not. With a muffled sound, Huan's body was pierced once again, but his eyes, as before, held a strange smile. Meanwhile, outside the mist, the witch Mayumi was kneeling in the snow, slowly cutting her wrist and letting her blood flow. The Takeuchi scroll, which had originally been nourished by blood, began to take on an eerie appearance. This was the secret behind Huan's ability to predict Deng Shintong's attack patterns. After being reborn from the flames twice, Deng Shintong finally confirmed Huan's ability. It was immortality, which was a bit tricky. Huan shrugged and mockingly said, sorry, my greatest strength is that I can't be killed. Deng Shintong was completely unbothered. He didn't believe there was anyone who couldn't be killed in this world. All carbon-based life forms would die, either because he hadn't found Huan's vital spot, or because he hadn't killed him enough times. Deng Shintong gently touched his handsome cheek and sneered, my teammates are still waiting for news of my victory. Looks like I need to finish this quickly. Mount Meru illusion. In a daze, Huan's eyes gradually regained focus, but what appeared before him was a colorful world, and the surrounding scenery began to change in strange and bizarre ways. He saw the bustling streets of Kyoto and the fields of Kagoshima. Is this an illusion? Huan thought to himself before he could think further. With a loud bang, his entire head exploded like a watermelon. Outside the mist, Mayumi's blood on the scroll also began to fade. Beside her, Shirjugo anxiously said, if this goes on, your entire arm will be ruined. But Mayumi, without hesitation, slashed her wrist again. At this moment in the illusion, Huan surprisingly stood up once again, facing Huan's third rebirth from the flames. Deng Shintong began to frown. What kind of monster is this? Why does he not lose any strength after being reborn? Normally, repairing damage would surely consume some ability, yet every time, he rises from the flames in perfect condition. However, Deng Shintong still firmly believed there is no such thing as someone who can't be killed in this world. This Huan is just hard to kill. Let's continue. Let me see how many times you can be reborn. But this time, even when Huan's vision and hearing were taken away, he still accurately blocked Deng Shintong's attack with his arm. Deng Shintong couldn't figure out how this man managed to do it. His Mount Meru illusion deprived his opponent of vision, smell, and taste, making the enemy's body exist exist in a different space, and then killing their flesh. From the perspective of a mutant, Deng Shintong was undoubtedly perfect. As the pinnacle of Deng's technology, his physical strength was comparable to that of the top-tier enhanced mutants. Even Zhu Jing considered him the perfect mutant and believed he could eventually break through and advance to Epsilon. But after hundreds of exchanges in the blink of an eye, Deng Shintong once again broke through his defense, piercing his abdomen with a single strike. This time, before Huan had fully regenerated, Deng Shintong took out a specially made handgun, aimed at his head, and fired a shot. This golden bullet was an upgraded version of the origin bullet, a special bullet designed for Deng Shintong. It could not only break magic and injure any shapeshifter, but also contain terrifying genetic toxins. Once it entered the body, it could quickly corrode a person entirely, and even mutants were no exception. This time, Huan's body also quickly turned black, but the next second, he stood up again. This left Deng Shintong utterly baffled. He wasn't an impatient person and had encountered many difficult opponents, but a shapeshifter who could infinitely resurrect in perfect form like this was a first for him. Thinking this, Deng Shintong came up with a plan. Why not seal him up and bring him back to Blizzard City, then hand him over to the research department for detailed analysis? Taking advantage of his regeneration process, he pulled out a specially made rope and tightly bound him. But just then, Huan suddenly turned around and burst out laughing. His laughter grew wilder. Deng Shintong was confused. "You're about to die. Why are you still laughing?" Huan mockingly said. "To have the chance to kill the famous Heavenly God Team captain. Of course, I have to laugh." As soon as he finished speaking, he exploded without warning. The splattering blood rain drenched Deng Shintong completely and quickly ignited. Deng Shintong immediately became a man on fire, despite desperately activating divine body empowerment to protect himself. Facing the unknown, high-temperature flames, it seemed to be of no use. Amid the shattered flesh and blood, Huan crawled up once again. "This time, it's your turn to be reborn from the flames. But too bad, you don't have my abilities. My phoenix power is not something ordinary people can withstand." With that, he took a swift step toward Deng Shintong and charged at him. "Die!" Deng Shintong was kicked dozens of meters away by a knee strike, blood gushing from his mouth, struggling to hold on. Suddenly, it was as if he understood everything. Everything felt like it had been meticulously planned. Even this battle was a trap designed from the start. So, their target was me. I can't die like this. I need to bring the intel back. At this moment, Huan walked up to Deng Shintong, looking down on him like a victor. But just as Huan was about to reach out and take off Deng Shintong's head exploded with a loud bang. Immediately, an incredibly terrifying force swept out, instantly flattening a 1,000-meter radius. No one had expected that Deng Shintong would choose to self-destruct in the end. The high-level officials of Blizzard City understood what this meant. Every captain-level mutant had a small high-energy bomb installed in their head, although its purpose wasn't to harm the enemy, but for self-destruction. Because captain-level mutants were too powerful, their essence needed to be protected from being consumed by the enemy. Thus, the appearance of such an explosion meant that a captain-level mutant had fallen. In other words, Deng Shintong was dead. Zhu Jing gritted his teeth, trembling as he muttered, "My most elite team. It's all been wiped out just like that." His face had contorted into something terrifying. Zhu Jing clenched his fists, ordering Lan Xinchen, "Immediately order all troops to retreat. Now, at once." With that, he suddenly stood up, preparing to use Death God of Love. "I will level the entire River Serenity City and bury those fluorescent scum along with the Heavenly God Team." Back when Eclipsed Moon first appeared, someone had suggested using Death God of Love, but Zhu Jing had rejected it. However, now he realized, if even the Heavenly God Team couldn't destroy Eclipsed Moon, only using Death God of Love could minimize the damage. Meanwhile, in the center of River Serenity Plaza, Huan once again crawled out of the rubble. The continuous resurrections had taken a toll on him. He wasn't truly immortal, but no one knew where his limits were. At this moment, he was also feeling a sense of dread. If it weren't for Mayumi's help, he might have already been dead. Indeed, the captains of Blizzard City's investigation team were monsters. On the other side, Takeuchi Mayumi, weakened by excessive blood loss, told Shirjugo, "Hurry up and notify everyone. We must leave here immediately. A huge danger is approaching." Shirjugo found a car and reported the situation to Huan. Huan immediately understood. The enemy was likely preparing to use weapons of mass destruction. "We must leave immediately." Looking at the severely injured and unconscious Takeuchi Mayumi, Huan thought to himself, "It seems I must find a healing-type mutant to treat her." As he left, he listened to the sound of the helicopter flying away in the distance, thinking, "This time, we've won, but there will definitely be a next time. Next time, I will give you all an even bigger surprise." Shinguji, sitting in the back of the car, looked at him with disgust. "Are you out of your mind? We still have nearly half of our members left, and we have no backup." Huan smiled mysteriously. "There will be. We're this strong. How could there be no one willing to turn to our side?" With that, he once again laughed wildly. His crazed laughter filled the entire snowfield. After receiving the retreat order, several armed helicopters urgently took off. At this point, Zhang Yi couldn't help but furrow his brow. "This is too unusual. Everyone saw the explosion just now, and after that, we received the retreat order. This doesn't look like a victory. Could it be that even Deng Shintong has failed?" Thinking about this, Zhang Yi felt his scalp tingle. If that's the case, Eclipsed Moon's strength really is immense. immeasurable the Heavenly God team is. After all, the ace force of the River South domain. He could even predict how furious and mad Zhu Jing would be. But did Deng Shintong really die just like that? That seems too unreal. After the helicopters had flown more than 10 kilometers away, a huge mushroom cloud rose from the center of River Serenity City. Everyone stared in disbelief at this scene. It seems the Heavenly God team has failed too. We're all mutants, so why is there such a huge difference? However, no matter how strong they were, they couldn't have survived Death God of Love, right? But at this moment, Zhang Yi still wore a worried expression. Liang Yu couldn't help but ask. Headquarters even used Death God of Love, not to mention Eclipsed Moon. Even an Epsilon level Yuan Konya couldn't have survived, right? Zhang Yi, however, spoke with deep concern. I have a bad feeling. I just don't think they'll die so easily. At this moment, Zhang Yi thought to himself, they seem to have a premonition ability, always able to predict the battle situation with great accuracy. So, they very likely could have predicted the appearance of Death God of Love. The explosion of Death God of Love drew worldwide attention. Through satellite imagery, it was easy to see that this Death God of Love came from the country River South region. At this time, Zhu Jing's mood was incredibly heavy. Didn't expect it would come to this. But before he could relax, a subordinate came to report, Commander, satellite monitoring has found that Eclipsed Moon had already fled from the center of River Serenity Plaza 10 minutes ago. Zhu Jing slammed the table and stood up abruptly. How is this possible? It's only been 10 minutes since I decided to use Death God of Love. Can they really have escaped faster than the explosion of Death God of Love? Lan Xinqing immediately brought up the satellite tracking. They indeed left by car before the explosion, including Zhu Jing. Everyone present felt their scalp tingle. What kind of monsters are these guys? Do they really have the ability to foresee the future? If that's the case, how can we even deal with them? Zhu Jing sat dazedly in his chair, as if half of his soul had been drained. At this point, he had completely lost face, and the prestige of River South domain would drop to zero. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say it was a complete humiliation, but Zhu Jing remained calm. Suddenly, he thought of Zhang Yi. Aside from the Eclipsed Moon member that Deng Shintong had killed, Zhang Yi was the biggest contributor to this operation. Although the opponent had the ability to foresee the future, it didn't seem perfect. At least Zhang Yi had killed 4 of them, though 2 of them seemed to have been lucky kills. At the time, Shinguji, the second in command of Eclipsed Moon, was nearby, and Zhang Yi had directly scared Shinguji off. This proved that Zhang Yi was far more than what he appeared to be. It seemed that Zhang Yi might be the key to eliminating Eclipsed Moon. With that in mind, Zhu Jing immediately gave the order. All information about this operation must be kept confidential. Anyone who dares to leak even a bit of it will have their Blizzard City residency revoked and be expelled. As for the Deng family, I will speak to them personally. At this time, the Deng family had already learned everything. Deng Yuanbo had instructed his subordinates to communicate with headquarters, and they didn't want to cause trouble with them directly. A subordinate asked Deng Yuanbo, somewhat confused, this operation is too strange. With the young master's strength, even if he couldn't win, he shouldn't have died in battle. Was it too mild for us to cooperate with their decisions? Could someone be trying to target the Deng family and weaken our influence in Blizzard City? But Deng Yuanbo thought for a moment and said, no matter the truth, River South domain cannot be in chaos. We rise and fall with the region. If Blizzard City gets into trouble, the Deng family will also find it hard to remain unharmed. I will continue to investigate the matter of the divine powers. Don't let me find out who's colluding with Eclipsed Moon, because even Zhu Jing won't be able to bear the consequences. It wasn't until Zhang Yi saw the heavy defenses in Blizzard City that he finally believed Deng Shintong had failed. This also made him feel regretful. He had liked Deng Shintong's personality. After the helicopter landed, a group of Swallow Cloud troops immediately surrounded them. Welcome back, Mr. Zhang Yi. At this point, a major leading the group spoke in an enthusiastic tone. Thank you, Mr. Zhang Yi, for your outstanding contributions in this battle. You single-handedly killed 4 Eclipsed Moon members, restoring the honor of Country Hua. He then handed over a black card. This is the points card you earned in this operation, with a total of 420 million points. With this card, you can make purchases in Blizzard City and exchange it for various supplies from headquarters. As soon as this was said, Mo Zhongning and Yuan Hao behind him finally believed that Zhang Yi hadn't been boasting just now. However, Zhang Yi's eyes lit up. He took the points card and firmly grabbed the Swallow Cloud Major's shoulder. With this thing, can I buy anything? The Swallow Cloud Major whispered. This is a high-level points card, and theoretically, most of the supplies will be available to you, but you can't go anywhere right now. Zhang Yi looked at him in surprise. Does Zhu Jing still want to invite me to dinner? The Swallow Cloud Major replied. We are also following orders from above. You few can only stay within the designated area for now. Any other actions must be approved by the higher-ups. Zhang Yi flashed a meaningful smile. It seems that the defeat in this battle has had a huge impact on Blizzard City. The higher-ups can only temporarily control the situation and keep us, the informed ones, quiet for now. But since I have the ability to space warp, all physical barriers are meaningless to me. Following the Swallow Cloud Major's guidance, Zhang Yi arrived at a villa area. These villas were considered top-tier living spaces in Blizzard City. The Swallow Cloud Major said to Zhang Yi, you will stay here for now. If you need anything, feel free to contact the Swallow Cloud soldiers around you. Enjoy your stay. The villa was surrounded by tight security, likely to the point where even a mosquito flying out would be detected. Liang Yu seemed puzzled. Isn't this just a way for the region to keep us under house arrest? We just risked our lives for the region, so why are they treating us like this? Zhang Yi shrugged. What else could it be? It's definitely because the defeat in the battle has caused a subtle change in the situation within Blizzard City, and it could even lead to a power struggle. But as long as it doesn't threaten our safety, I don't care about their messy affairs. I performed so well in this battle. They're not planning to make me the head of an investigation team, are they? If that's the case, I'll have to find an excuse to refuse. Being too excellent is also a problem. Should I report to the shelter to let them know we're safe? Heavenly Sea City is so close to River Serenity. If those eclipsed moon guys escape to Heavenly Sea City, then they'll be in danger. Zhang Yi immediately contacted Yang Xinxin. Yang Xinxin had been keeping an eye on Blizzard City's movements. The death god of love explosion in River Serenity caused their electronic devices to briefly malfunction, which made Yang Xinxin both worried and scared. Zhang Yi smiled. Don't worry, we're all fine. I need to tell you something, but you must keep it confidential. Blizzard City's operation against Eclipsed Moon failed, but only you need to know about this. The current situation of Eclipsed Moon is still unknown, and since Heavenly Sea City is so close to River Serenity, you must stay inside the shelter. If anything seems off, head straight for the basement. Also, remind Xiao Honglian and the others to stay alert. Keep an eye on their surroundings, and be ready to hide in the shelter. Yang Xinxin nodded and agreed. Okay, brother, I'll remember. I've also gathered some intel on Eclipsed Moon. I'll send it to you once I've organized it. Zhang Yi was a bit surprised. The region has been collecting intel on Eclipsed Moon, but we've barely gotten anything. How did you manage to do it? Yang Xinxin smiled mysteriously. Those coders from River South Domain are no match for me. Even though they have superior equipment, technically, I can easily crush them, though I haven't awakened any special abilities. Xinxin isn't useless either. Before hanging up, Zhang Yi instinctively said, Xinxin, please be careful. Remember to protect yourself. This made Yang Xinxin wear a look of happiness. After hanging up, Yang Xinxin headed toward Zhou Keir's medical room, thinking to herself that she could never become a burden. Upon entering the medical room, she spoke to Zhou Keir. Let's begin the experiment. Zhou Keir reminded her, this experiment is extremely dangerous, and the level of pain is almost the highest humans can experience. But Yang Xinxin had already made up her mind. I just want to gain great power, so I can truly help my brother. Zhou Keir could only sigh helplessly. Fine, but I must tie you up to prevent you from struggling due to the pain during the experiment. It's not too late to back out now. I'm really worried you won't be able to endure this pain throughout the entire process. Yang Xinxin wore a smile, slowly closing her eyes. Sister, let's begin. Zhou Keir took a transparent acrylic box and placed Yang Xinxin's entire head inside it, while also attaching a heart rate monitor to Yang Xinxin's body. As Zhou Keir pressed the switch, water quickly poured into the tank, and Yang Xinxin soon entered a state of drowning. Zhou Keir stared intently at the electrocardiogram until 2 minutes after it turned into a straight line. After confirming that Yang Xinxin's body showed no changes, Zhou Keir activated her medical ability and quickly performed CPR on Yang Xinxin. Soon after, Yang Xinxin's heartbeat resumed, indicating that the experiment had clearly failed. The waking Yang Xinxin appeared a bit downcast, and Zhou Keir calmly reminded her, I've studied your cells. Although some mutations occurred due to the effects of gamma rays, this is a common phenomenon after the apocalypse, and it doesn't mean you'll necessarily develop abilities. The near-death experiment doesn't always succeed. You could have originally awakened a frost essence, but Yang Xinxin expressionlessly said, I've always believed that the way to awaken frost essence is flawed. What truly determines the strength of an ability is the will. When a person is in a near-death state, their obsession transforms into the awakened ability. The stronger the obsession, the more powerful the ability. Abilities awakened through frost essence are mostly support type, which isn't what I want. I want stronger power, to become the unique existence beside Zhang Yi. Zhou Keir took a deep breath. Even without abilities, you can still help Zhang Yi a lot. Yang Xinxin shook her head. How could it be the same? No one ever thinks their abilities are too strong. She understood herself. She didn't want to be a weak girl who needed protection. She wanted to face dangers with Zhang Yi, fighting side by side as a strong warrior. Keir's sister, continue. Zhou Keir was a bit shocked. The feeling of near death is something no one wants to experience. Yet Yang Xinxin had just gone through it and decided to do it again. But at this moment, Yang Xinxin mischievously smiled. Anyway, with you here, I'll definitely survive. We can wait a bit longer. Let me fully experience the despair of death. That might make it easier to succeed. Zhou Keir looked at her cousin, her body slightly trembling from fear. This girl is terrifying. Although she wouldn't die with me here, the thought of desperately testing the edge of death is enough to give anyone chills. I hope the experiment succeeds soon, since there's no hope of making her give up. Meanwhile, on the other side, the remaining Eclipsed Moon forces, after leaving River Serenity, prepared to return to Coastal City. A group of them had just boarded their icebreaker hidden at the harbor, slowly drifting away from shore. They sincerely mourned the 5 fallen comrades. After the mourning, Huan put on a newsboy cap, though there were some unexpected events. Overall, we won this battle. Next, we'll cause even more chaos, and then take the opportunity to negotiate with River South Domain. At this point, Mayumi felt some guilt. They all died because of me. It's my divination that went wrong. Huan comforted her. How could this be your fault? None of us expected Deng Shintong's sudden appearance. However, the loss of the other 4 is a bit strange. At this point, Shinguji pushed up his glasses and coldly said, among that group of people, I did encounter one extremely dangerous individual. Everyone immediately turned to Shinguji. Could anyone be more dangerous than Deng Shintong? Shinguji recalled. It was a completely different feeling. Both Divine Valley and Yakuzan were killed instantly by a single shot. Although they were both seriously injured, it's hard for one bullet to directly kill them. So, his bullets have far greater power than ordinary people. If he were just a sniper, it would be manageable. But he even instantly devoured my 2 Shikigami, showing that he's also a very powerful spatial ability user. At this point, Kamamoto spoke up. I think I remember the guy you're talking about. Gen Wokitsu and Long Zagui were chasing him. It seems that they too were most likely killed by him. The Eclipsed Moon members were shocked. So, that means 4 out of our 5 dead teammates were killed by the same person. What kind of monster is he? At this moment, Huan's expression turned serious and frightening. Could he be the one who made Mayumi's prediction fail? Mayumi mumbled. He's probably an outlier. If this person is involved in our future operations, I'll be at a severe disadvantage. I must find a way to deal with him first. Huan narrowed his eyes and looked into the distance, calmly saying, don't rush. I still want to learn more about that sniper. There will be plenty of chances to kill him later. After settling into the villa, Zhang Yi took out the 4 Eclipsed Moon members he had killed from the other space. With great expectation, he placed his hand on the forehead of one of the Eclipsed Moon members, thinking, these 4 are elite Delta level mutants. If I absorb their powers, my strength should increase significantly. But this time, the sense of exhilaration didn't come. He did absorb some power, but the increase felt almost negligible. In fact, this had happened before. After killing the Days City Coalition, Zhang Yi absorbed their essence, but the improvement to his strength was nearly imperceptible. He had originally thought it was because they were too weak, but these 4 Eclipsed Moon members were no pushovers. Could it be that he's hit a bottleneck in his advancement? With this thought, Zhang Yi called for Flower and Liang Yu. Let you both absorb the energy of these 3. As a result, Flower emitted a sound of saturation after absorbing one of the mutants, while Liang Yu easily devoured the essence of the other 2. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. The foundation of a martial arts master is truly deep enough. I wonder what stage of evolution she's reached now. When bored, Zhang Yi picked up the phone and called Bailey Changqing, but the call was immediately disconnected. The message said that the number was out of service. It seemed the aftermath of this battle was being managed too strictly. At this moment, Yang Xinxin's organized Eclipsed Moon files were sent over. Indeed, these files were quite different from those given by Blizzard City. They even detailed each person's life story. Takeuchi Mayumi, the 126th generation heir of the Takeuchi family. Her ancestor was an official during the Wuya era, known as Wu Nei Shucheng. Wu Nei Shucheng's duties were similar to those of the historians in Country Hua, but his method of recording history was not in writing, but passed down orally. Looking at these files, Zhang Yi couldn't help but call it interesting. He hadn't expected a hereditary position like this. According to the definition of abilities, this person's ability must be related to memory, but memory-related abilities are basically useless, right? At this moment, Zhang Yi had a bold thought. Could his ability be prophecy? That explains everything. This means that within the entire Eclipsed Moon team, the most terrifying one is not Hoenn, but this Takeuchi Mayumi. She is the true core of Eclipsed Moon. But then again, if the other party could truly calculate everything perfectly, why would they have been killed by him, losing 4 people? Could it be that their attention was focused on the Heavenly God team at that time? But how could they know whether I was part of the Heavenly God team? Zhang Yi couldn't help but fall into deep thought. He even had the feeling that if he could figure this out, it would become the key to destroying Eclipsed Moon. At this moment, Zhang Yi received a message. Zhu Jing asked him to go to the command center tomorrow morning. It seemed they had already discussed a countermeasure. The next day, Zhang Yi arrived at the command center and found out that Bailey Changqing was also called in. Bailey Changqing wore a bitter smile, and Zhang Yi immediately understood. He quickly comforted Bailey Changqing. I hope General Zhu can understand the fact that you helped me conceal my strength. Bailey Changqing looked complex. At this point, there's no choice but to tough it out. Lan Xinqing led them into Zhu Zheng's office. Come upstairs. General Zhu has been waiting for a long time. Soon, the two arrived at Zhu Zheng's office. Lan Xinqing didn't enter, closing the door behind them. Inside, only Zhu Zheng and his personal guard, Sun Luxuan, were present. Zhu Zheng got straight to the point. Zhang Yi, you contributed the most in this operation to encircle Eclipsed Moon. I was quite surprised. I didn't expect there to be such a powerful mutant in the outer city. You've really kept it well hidden. At this point, Zhu Zheng fixed his gaze on Bailey Changqing. Even our district's investigation team didn't notice. Bailey Changqing broke into a cold sweat, while Zhang Yi calmly responded. A cunning rabbit still has 3 burrows. I kept some life-saving methods for survival in the end times. I hope General Zhu can understand. Zhu Zheng nodded. You've spoken well. You're cautious enough, and you can hide things well, which is a very valuable trait in the end times. The soldiers who survive to the end are often the ones like you. In the face of Zhu Zheng's praise, Zhang Yi remained calm. General Zhu overestimates me. my strength is still far from the elites of Blizzard City, and my combat quality is even further behind. Zhu Jing sighed deeply and said, we're in an era of great mutation. The role of ordinary soldiers has become minimal. They can no longer influence the outcome of the battle. New forms of warfare have emerged, and especially in this campaign, we've all learned a lesson. Eclipsed Moon only had 13 people, but they caused such a huge stir. So now, only top-tier mutants and intelligence are the deciding factors in the outcome of a battle. Before, we were too arrogant, immersed in the advantages of having more people and fighting on home turf. If we don't change this mindset in time, we'll definitely suffer a big loss in the future. Zhu Jing placed his hands on the table, his gaze fixed tightly on Zhang Yi's face. The next revenge operation must be led by top-tier mutants. I've decided to hand over the initiative of the battlefield to you, so I hope you will lead the next mission. The air suddenly grew still. Zhang Yi fell silent, while Bailey Changqing looked at him in surprise. Zhang Yi's worst fear had come true. He had expected Zhu Jing to include him in the next encirclement task, but he didn't expect to be asked to take the lead directly. The burden came too quickly. After thinking for a few seconds, Zhang Yi immediately started to decline. Blizzard City has so many talents. Why don't you choose someone else, General Zhu? But Zhu Jing looked at him meaningfully. This mission is probably only for you. You possess an ability that no one else has. Takeuchi Mayumi from Eclipsed Moon most likely has the ability to foresee the future. Every time we plan our strategies, she can accurately predict them. Even Death God of Love was within her predictions. It's unimaginable. She predicted how I would arrange things before I even made the decisions. At this moment, Bailey Changqing raised a question. If she really can foresee the future, then how could Zhang Yi have killed those 4 people? Zhu Jing slammed the table, decisively saying, you've hit the nail on the head. We found that her predictions seem to be ineffective against Zhang Yi, or rather, wherever Zhang Yi is, her predictive ability fails. This is truly remarkable. This is also why I want you to lead, because only you can break our awkward situation and crack her prediction ability. At this point, Zhu Jing leaned forward, asking, now, I hope Zhang Yi can be honest with us. How did you break her foresight ability? Zhang Yi sighed. I don't know. When this mission started, I sensed something was off. My direction didn't have any enemies appearing, but at that moment, Zhang Yi already understood that the other side's predictive ability, in other words, was a causality weapon. It relied on a predetermined fate, but Zhang Yi was a reborn person. On the original timeline, Zhang Yi was already dead. He didn't belong to any part of the causality here, so she couldn't predict him. Zhu Jing furrowed his brow. Zhang Yi clearly wasn't showing his cards. It seemed they would have to offer him enough benefits. With that thought, Zhu Jing suddenly slammed the table. I'm planning to merge the remnants of the Heavenly God team with the Black Robe team to form a new team called Heavenly Dog. You, Zhang Yi, will be the leader. So, you directly became the leader of the investigation team and immediately gained the resources and authority of a leader in Blizzard City. Bailey Changqing beside him had a look of despair. I haven't even warmed the seat of the captain yet, and now Black Robe team is about to be disbanded? Zhang Yi, however, showed no reaction, thinking to himself, what Heavenly Dog team? I don't care for that. He smiled and said, I'm not interested in the captain position, but if I'm going to hunt down Eclipsed Moon, will resources and weapons be supplied without limit? Zhu Jing immediately replied, of course, anything you want in terms of weapons, feel free. At this point, Sun Luxuan leaned over and whispered, General Zhu, he's a space-type mutant. Zhu Jing then realized he had spoken too candidly just now and almost gave Zhang Yi everything. He cleared his throat and said, as for resources, you can make a list, and whatever we have, I'll send people to deliver it. Zhang Yi awkwardly smiled, thinking of using the opportunity to gain a bit more, but this was good enough. I'll think about the weapons later. For now, could I get a few sets of black combat suits? I want to provide one for each of my friends. Bailey Changqing reminded him, black combat suits are Blizzard City's top secret technology. Non-Blizzard City personnel aren't allowed to have them. But Zhu Jing interrupted him, just a few sets of combat suits. As long as Zhang Yi needs them, he can have as many as he wants. Zhang Yi hurriedly explained, I just said I'd join this mission, but I never said I agreed to join Blizzard City. I still prefer my own little place. Zhu Jing smiled and said, right now, the most crucial thing is to resolve the Eclipsed Moon issue. Everything else can be discussed later. You can leave with Bailey Changqing now, and also meet someone special. I plan to contact other investigation teams that are out on missions, so we can unite our forces. Zhang Yi was a bit surprised. Another investigation team is coming? How special are they? Bailey Changqing, also unaware, asked, which team is returning to Blizzard City? Zhu Jing smiled faintly. The reincarnation team. Upon hearing that the reincarnation team was returning, Bailey Changqing's expression immediately changed from cloudy to clear. Clearly, there were people in the reincarnation team with whom he had good relations. If they showed up, their chances of winning would greatly increase. Zhu Jing nodded. Other teams are on important missions. Only the reincarnation team just finished their task in the north and rushed back as soon as they got the news. When your temporary Heavenly Dog team joins forces with reincarnation, you'll surely be able to wipe out Eclipsed Moon in one go. Zhang Yi scratched his head. Although he didn't know who the reincarnation team was, from Bailey Changqing's reaction, they seemed quite powerful. Never mind that. Let's go use our points to exchange for some useful items. He then stood up, preparing to leave. leave. Bailey Chongqing also got up, planning to leave with Zhang Yi, but Zhu Jin called out to him. Bailey Chongqing immediately broke into a cold sweat. General Zhu, you're not going to settle accounts with me, are you? But Zhu Jin told him, make sure to seize this opportunity to make up for your past mistakes. I don't want to see anything like hiding Zhang Yi's strength again. Bailey Chongqing immediately stood straight. Understood. After walking out the door, he sighed in relief. I've finally passed this hurdle. At that moment, Zhang Yi was waiting for him not far away. General Zhu didn't make things difficult for you, right? Bailey Chongqing immediately straightened his back, pretending as if nothing had happened. No, General Zhu just gave me a few words of encouragement. Zhang Yi didn't bother to call him out. Hurry up and take me to exchange for those combat suits. I can look at other things as well. But Bailey Chongqing mysteriously said, I think you've underestimated the resources of the district. The really good stuff isn't just the combat suits. The nanoparticle-made combat suits are great, but they only enhance basic combat power. It's the gene drugs that are the real treasures. They directly increase the mutant power limit. Zhang Yi looked skeptical. I wouldn't dare use gene drugs with severe side effects. Isn't Bian Zhengwu a living example? Zhang Yi had always suspected that Bian Zhengwu's hidden injuries were caused by gene drugs, and he never believed in any free lunches. Bailey Chongqing rolled up his sleeves and said, Captain Bian was indeed the first to try the batch of medicines, but continuous improvements have been made, and no abnormal reactions have been found so far. Look at me. I have no issues with my body. He then put his arm around Zhang Yi's shoulder and mysteriously added, I suggest you consider compound number 5Z. It's an explosive agent that can give you immense power in a short time. Although it has side effects, it's perfect for saving your life. I carry a dose with me every time. Zhang Yi was a bit tempted. Since it's such a good thing, I'll keep a dose on me. A little side effect is better than getting killed, right? Better safe than sorry. Then Zhang Yi asked, how strong is the reincarnation team? I mean, compared to your black robe team and the heavenly god team? Bailey Chongqing mysteriously replied, when they return, I'll take you to meet their captain. I guarantee you'll be shocked when you see him. Zhang Yi shrugged boredly, thinking, he's probably some social celebrity. What's so special about that? Why would I be shocked? After leaving Zhu Zheng's office, Zhang Yi decided to redeem his points first, but he found that one set of battle suits cost 50 million points. Zhang Yi changed his mind, thinking that the battle suits could wait. When it's time to go fight Eclipsed Moon, General Zhu will definitely give him one. He might as well look at other things first. Then, Zhang Yi inquired about the effects of several compounds. Compound number 1 increases awakening probability by 20% and costs 150 million points. Compound number 2 enhances abilities and can help a mutant evolve to some extent, costing 120 million points. Compound number 4 is a military stimulant that enhances a mutant's abilities by 20% within 12 hours, but with obvious side effects like dizziness, vomiting, and dehydration, costing 20 million points. Zhang Yi couldn't help but ask, what about compound number 3? The officer replied, number 3 is not on the exchange list. Bailey Chongqing explained, the drugs are developed by the research department. Some special ones aren't available to the public, and even I don't know their effects. Zhang Yi sighed. These things are too expensive. Zhang Yi had originally thought that with over 400 million points, he could splurge, but reality was much harsher. At that moment, Bailey Chongqing gave him a wink. Our investigation team has internal prices. Do you want to become an official member of our team? Zhang Yi whispered, can you help me redeem it? I'll transfer the points to you afterward. Bailey Chongqing awkwardly smiled. Exchanges for special items are all registered under real names. It's not worth trying to cheat the system. After some consideration, Zhang Yi decided to redeem 4 doses of the drugs, thinking he could bring them back for Zhou Kir and Lu Karen to study. Maybe they could replicate them. After redeeming the items, Zhang Yi prepared to head back to Heavenly Sea City, but Bailey Chongqing stopped him. The reincarnation team is coming back today. I'll take you to meet their captain, and then you can apply to General Zhu to return to Heavenly Sea City. Zhang Yi smiled. I'm not the captain of any heavenly dog team. There's no rush to meet him. But Bailey Chongqing replied, the captain of the reincarnation team is my friend. Since we're going to cooperate to take down Eclipsed Moon, it's a good chance to meet him in advance. Zhang Yi thought, since they're friends, it wouldn't hurt to meet him. The two then headed toward the gate, but the sight there shocked Zhang Yi. The entire entrance was packed with people. Zhang Yi, with his good hearing, could vaguely make out some voices from the crowd. Gao Changkong is the pride of us commoners. I've always said he's much better than Deng Shintong. Some girls were even holding up banners, shouting they wanted to marry Gao Changkong. Zhang Yi stood there dumbfounded. At a time like this, they still have fan culture? Could it be that the Gao Changkong they were talking about was the same Gao Changkong? Bailey Chongqing nodded. The name Gao Changkong was already well known before the apocalypse. He was an incredibly talented basketball player. After dominating the country, he entered the NBA and played for the Red City Suns as a small forward for 12 years, earning 3 championship rings. Zhang Yi couldn't help but exclaim, this is a true winner in life. Whether before or after the apocalypse, he was always shining. On both sides of the road, there were countless fans shouting Gao Changkong's name. At this moment, the Minister of the United Front, Tu Yunlai, arrived at the gate to welcome him. At this point, Gao Changkong finally stepped stepped down from the car. He was tall and imposing, officially recorded at 1.96 meters. His appearance inevitably sparked another round of screaming and cheering. After Gao Changkong made his grand return, Tu Yunlai, representing the high authorities of Blizzard City, offered some encouraging words to Gao Changkong before leaving the stage to Gao Changkong and the reincarnation team. However, Gao Changkong's gaze fell on Bailey Changqing, who was not far away, and he waved directly to signal Bailey Changqing to come over. Seeing this, Bailey Changqing grabbed Zhang Yi and walked up to him. As Zhang Yi walked out of the crowd, people immediately started to discuss among themselves, what's the Black Robe team's captain doing with this unfamiliar face? The Black Robe team is basically half done now, and so is the Heavenly God team. Our reincarnation team is the only one we can count on. Who says that kids from ordinary families can't compare to those from noble families? The fangirls in the city looked at Gao Changkong, who had a sunny and friendly face, and felt an innate sense of pride. Gao Changkong was born into a commoner family. In Blizzard City, Gao Changkong represented the perfect example of an ordinary person rising up, and thus, he had a very high reputation among the common people. Bailey Changqing walked up and gave Gao Changkong a big hug, saying, "Congratulations, old Gao. Hope your trip to North Pavilion Lake wasn't too troublesome." Gao Changkong smiled and said, "It was alright. The creatures we encountered were indeed strong, but fortunately, their intelligence wasn't high. However, there were so many of them, it really took up a lot of time." At this point, he looked at Zhang Yi and asked, "Who is this brother?" Bailey Changqing introduced, "His name is Zhang Yi, a mutant from Heavenly Sea City. His story is pretty amazing. I'll tell you more when you have time." There was no sign of condescension in Gao Changkong's eyes. He thought that anyone whom Bailey Changqing personally brought over couldn't be an ordinary person. At the very least, they had strength above Bailey Changqing's. So, he took the initiative to extend his right hand to Zhang Yi. While shaking hands, Zhang Yi glanced at the reincarnation team out of the corner of his eye. There were a total of 9 members. At this point, Gao Changkong turned to the crowd and loudly said, "Thank you all for your concern. We've finally returned safely." At these words, the scene immediately became a bit chaotic. Everyone hoped that Gao Changkong could restore River South Domain's honor. Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel speechless, thinking, how stuck in their ways they are. The most fearless are the ignorant. How would they know how strong Eclipsed Moon really is? Gao Changkong didn't respond to the fans' request, but simply smiled and waved at them. He then said to Bailey Changqing, "I'll go report to General Zhu about the mission first. Then we can find a place to relax and have a few drinks." Bailey Changqing scratched his head and said, "You've returned victorious. They'll definitely throw a banquet for you to celebrate." Gao Changkong shook his head. "I declined. I've heard a bit about Eclipsed Moon, and the current situation isn't suitable for too much fanfare. To avoid unnecessary misunderstandings." Bailey Changqing smiled. "In that case, we'll just have a small gathering later." Soon after, Gao Changkong told his teammates to go back and rest while he got into Bailey Changqing's car. On the way, he and Bailey Changqing chatted casually, and Zhang Yi could tell that their relationship was indeed quite good. Gao Changkong asked Bailey Changqing about Eclipsed Moon, and Bailey Changqing sighed, saying, "The situation is not looking good. The leader of Eclipsed Moon defeated Deng Shintong, and the Heavenly God team was almost entirely wiped out. However, Eclipsed Moon also suffered significant losses in that battle, losing 5 members." At this point, Bailey Changqing gave a thumbs up to Zhang Yi, who was sitting in the back seat. "This guy here took out 4 members of Eclipsed Moon all by himself." This made Gao Changkong turn around and reassess Zhang Yi, feeling a bit shocked in his heart, but he said, "That's not surprising. The land of our country Hua is full of talented people. It's not just those from big cities or powerful families who can possess such great abilities." Only then did Zhang Yi remember that Gao Changkong, too, came from an ordinary family, and his words carried a bit of mutual respect. However, at that moment, Gao Changkong was thinking to himself, "It seems that before we can team up with Eclipsed Moon to overthrow Zhu Zheng, I'll have to deal with this troublesome guy first." After Gao Changkong reported on the task, the 3 of them decided to head to the password bar for a drink. Zhang Yi didn't usually enjoy joining such gatherings, but he thought that chatting with them might help him gather some useful intelligence. Also, it wouldn't hurt to get close to a captain-level figure. Soon, they arrived at the password bar, and Gao Changkong clearly felt that everyone in the bar was exceptionally warm towards him. The general manager even personally came over and said that their drinks would be on the house. It should be noted that after the apocalypse, alcoholic beverages were extremely expensive luxury items, so getting a free drink was a rare occurrence. Gao Changkong chuckled. "Why didn't I ever get this kind of treatment before?" Bailey Changqing smiled and said, "Because everyone has high hopes for you." Gao Changkong couldn't bring himself to feel happy. "In the end, it's because the Heavenly God squad lost, making me the hero they hope for in their hearts." After the drinks arrived, they began to clink glasses, and the conversation gradually opened up. Gao Changkong praised Zhang Yi. "General Zhu gave me a brief introduction about you, and I was really impressed. Your level of strength would be at least a team leader in Blizzard City." Zhang Yi returned the compliment. "Captain Gao, you're too kind. Compared to you, I'm far from it. I still have a lot to learn from you." Gao Changkong laughed heartily. "You're too modest." At this point, Bailey Changqing asked, "Did General General Zhu say anything else? Would it be okay to talk about it? Gao Changkong replied, nothing inconvenient. He mentioned the Heavenly God Squad and how you guys are forming the Heavenly Dog Squad. Then he pointed at Zhang Yi. General Zhu also said that you're the best candidate to be the team leader. Zhang Yi shrugged. I turned down General Zhu's proposal. It might sound funny, but I'm just an ordinary warehouse manager from Heavenly Sea City. I have no leadership skills and not much determination, so I could never be a people manager. This time, Captain Gao has returned, so you should be in charge of this operation. Maybe you could also take charge of the Heavenly Dog Squad. Gao Changkong shook his head helplessly. How could that be? How could the higher-ups give me control over 3 squads? Zhang Yi realized that the higher-ups certainly wouldn't want him to have too much authority over his subordinates. At this point, Zhang Yi curiously asked, you 6 investigation squad leaders spend a lot of time on missions, but this time, with such a big incident like the fluorescent mutants, you weren't called back. Does that mean your mission level is even higher than Eclipsed Moon? Gao Changkong thought for a moment and smiled. Our mission doesn't really have that much secrecy, so it's fine to talk about it. For example, the Black Robe Squad mainly deals with people, while our Reincarnation Squad has been dealing with beasts recently. After the apocalypse, mutant beasts have been running rampant. The 5 cities around North Pavilion Lake were all occupied by the beast race. With full support from Blizzard City, it took us 3 whole months to take it back. Zhang Yi couldn't help but gasp. Doesn't that sound like a beast tide? However, after thinking about it, he realized it made sense. After all, the post-apocalyptic era had entered a period of great mutations, where not only humans could evolve, but other creatures could as well. His Flower and Xing Tian's magic dogs were good examples. Zhang Yi sighed. Luckily, the nearshore waters have frozen. Even if there are mutated creatures, they shouldn't be too strong. But the deep sea is another story. However, even if they exist, they probably won't cause chaos on land. Zhang Yi continued asking, what about the other investigation squads? Gao Changkong smiled and said, let's just say each has its own troubles. He didn't go into further details at this point. Zhang Yi also realized that he might be asking too many questions. After all, he wasn't an official member of Blizzard City, so some things had to be kept from him. The 3 of them chatted happily and drank for about 2 hours. After drinking with Gao Changkong, Zhang Yi immediately called Zhu Zheng, saying he wanted to return to Heavenly Sea City to visit his friends. Zhu Zheng agreed without hesitation, but emphasized that he had to go quickly and come back soon, because after the Reincarnation Squad returned, they would quickly proceed with the next round of operations, and they couldn't do it without him. Zhang Yi had no choice but to agree. At that moment, Zhu Zheng was having tea with Deng Yuanbo in the office. Zhu Zheng spoke first. Mr. Deng, our team has been fully formed and is ready for the next operation. Do you have any questions? The only issue is that Zhang Yi is still unwilling to take on the role of team leader. His abilities are crucial for this mission, but in terms of command, Bailey Changqing might be a better fit. Deng Yuanbo smiled. Bailey Changqing's strength isn't enough to command respect, and the command can't be given to Gao Changkong because we can't afford to fail again. That's why Zhang Yi is the best candidate. The reason he refuses the role of team leader is that the offer you gave him isn't attractive enough. Zhu Zheng frowned and said, I've already promised him that he can become the official investigation squad leader and enjoy Blizzard City's Class A supplies. Isn't that enough? Deng Yuanbo shook his head. General Zhu, you're a soldier. You don't understand business. Business is about mutual needs. I think this is something you should leave to me. However, if I succeed in persuading Zhang Yi, you must promise me one thing. For the next encirclement operation, Zhang Yi must be in charge, and it must be widely publicized. Upon hearing this, Zhu Zheng immediately guessed Deng Yuanbo's intentions. You're worried that Gao Changkong will steal the spotlight and gain too much influence in Blizzard City, which might affect the Deng family, right? Deng Yuanbo didn't answer directly, but took a sip of tea and gave Zhu Zheng a meaningful look. I think you wouldn't want your subordinates' achievements to overshadow the leader, would you? The two shared a knowing smile. Afterward, Deng Yuanbo stood up. Leave Zhang Yi to me. Just as he was about to leave, Zhu Zheng suddenly asked, how is your family member doing? Deng Yuanbo sighed softly. That incident was a huge blow to him. Let's not disturb him for now. On the other side, Zhang Yi quickly returned to the shelter with Liang Yu and Flower. As soon as he arrived, Chun Lei rushed out, crying as he hugged Zhang Yi's leg. Boss, where have you been for so long? The mushroom cloud there really scared me a few days ago. Zhang Yi looked at him speechlessly. This fat guy is still as timid as ever. Where is everyone else? Chun Lei explained. Uncle Yu is practicing punches on the 3rd underground floor, and Dr. Zhou should be in the infirmary. Zhang Yi then headed toward the infirmary. However, when he arrived at the door, he heard a sound of water splashing inside. Zhang Yi thought to himself, could they be practicing swimming? His mind began to wander, and he slowly pushed the door open. The scene inside immediately left him stunned. He saw Yang Xinxin tightly bound to an operating table, her face as pale as a corpse. Meanwhile, Zhou Qir was using her supernatural abilities to treat Yang Xinxin. Suddenly, Yang Xinxin jerked her head back, and her eyes emitted a strange golden light. Soon, a holy angel with 6 pure white wings and a divine bow and arrow appeared above her. In a sickly tone, Yang Xinxin said, Brother, you've finally come back. Xinxin is also a mutant now. After speaking, she fainted, and the angel in midair disappeared in an instant. Zhang Yi quickly asked Zhou Ke, what exactly is going on here? After understanding the entire process, Zhang Yi felt a chill run down his spine while his heart ached. He looked at the girl lying quietly on the couch. His emotions were mixed. This girl was truly reckless. Zhang Yi, who had died once before, knew exactly how painful it was. And this girl, in order to awaken her supernatural powers, had experienced the edge of death 38 times. Despite that, Zhang Yi couldn't help but feel a sliver of hope. What kind of supernatural power would Yang Xinxin awaken? She already had a top-tier brain, and if combined with powerful combat abilities, wouldn't she be unbeatable? Then, Zhang Yi said to Zhou Ke, come with me to find Karen. I need you both to help me research something. Upon arriving at Liu Karen's workshop, Zhang Yi took out several compounds from his spatial pocket. Help me analyze these compounds and see if we can replicate them. Zhou Ke looked at the compounds of various colors curiously and asked, are these drugs? Zhang Yi smiled. These are very expensive medicines that I exchanged with a huge amount of points in Blizzard City. They're said to be gene-related drugs. Some can help mutants enhance their abilities, and some can even increase the probability of awakening abilities. The two of them stared at the drugs, their eyes gleaming. As expected from the River South domain, these kinds of things exist here? Zhou Ke immediately said, I'll scrape a little bit of these down for research when I return to the infirmary, but without professional equipment and materials, it will be hard to replicate them. Zhang Yi shrugged. Try your best. If you can't do it, then there's nothing we can do. At dinner time, Zhou Haimei and Yang Mi had prepared a large spread. Just as Yang Xinxin woke up, she suddenly sat in front of Zhang Yi. Brother, now I can finally fight alongside you. Zhang Yi was curious about what kind of power Yang Xinxin had awakened, so he reached out and teasingly scratched her nose, saying, you've always been my best helper. Yang Xinxin giggled. It's not the same now. At that, Zhang Yi leaned in and asked, so what is your supernatural ability? Tell me. Yang Xinxin's face turned nearly as red as her neck, and suddenly, like a little demon, she stared at Zhang Yi, shyly asking, do you want to try it first? Zhang Yi's heart skipped a beat, but Yang Xinxin mischievously said to him, I won't use my power on you, brother. My ability is called Desire Angel. I can control people's hearts. Anyone who is hit by my angel's arrow will instantly have their inner feelings of love or malice magnified and be controlled by those emotions. In other words, I can play with people's hearts at will. This ability is truly wonderful. After hearing this, Zhang Yi couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. This ability fits this Yandere girl perfectly, he thought. I guess I'll have to keep my guard up against her. If she sneaks an attack and makes me fall in love with someone, or worse, makes me hate someone, that could be a disaster. At this point, Yang Xinxin asked about the recent situation with Eclipsed Moon. Zhang Yi pondered for a moment, then decided to tell everyone the truth. Regardless of what happened, everyone needed to be mentally prepared. He couldn't guarantee that Eclipsed Moon wouldn't show up in Heavenly Sea City. Zhang Yi then calmly explained the situation with Eclipsed Moon. After hearing the details, everyone's faces showed clear signs of shock and concern. The most elite investigation team in River South Domain lost to this damn fluorescent? How strong can this person be? Yang Xinxin, however, suddenly spoke up. I have a feeling there's some conspiracy behind this. Zhang Yi turned his head to look at her. You mean there's a conspiracy involved? Yang Xinxin wiped her mouth with a napkin and replied calmly, we've all seen the strength of a team leader level fighter. Even heavily wounded, Bian Zhenwu was terrifying. I've heard that the strength of Heavenly God's team leader surpasses Bian Zhenwu at his peak. Do you really think a team leader is so easy to kill? Zhang Yi shook his head. This isn't a joke. Even if he appeared right in front of me now, without knowing his abilities, I wouldn't be confident I could kill him. Suddenly, an idea struck Zhang Yi. Are you suggesting that the abilities of Heavenly God team members were leaked? Yang Xinxin glanced at him and smiled. Even if we can't win, at least escaping should be possible, right? Zhang Yi thought of Deng Shentong's abilities. His light manipulation powers made escaping almost as easy as his own spatial abilities. Unless the opponent was an Epsilon level mutant, killing him would be nearly impossible. There are people in Eclipsed Moon with prophetic abilities. It's not hard to predict Deng Shentong's powers, so if they could predict the type of abilities someone has, that person must be an Epsilon level mutant. If someone this strong existed in Eclipsed Moon, they would have easily wiped out Fluorescent first and then moved on to conflict with Country Hua. But according to the intelligence, Eclipsed Moon doesn't have this kind of ability. Zhang Yi's eyes widened with realization. Could there be a mole in Blizzard City? Uncle Yu, who had been listening, looked incredulous. How could they possibly ally with Fluorescent? What could they gain from that? Others also expressed disbelief, but Yang Xinxin remained calm. This is just my personal guess, but no matter how you look at it, how could the Ronin organization have caused River South Domain to lose so badly? If you think about it from another perspective, could someone in Blizzard City have intentionally used Eclipsed Moon to target Heavenly God's team? As far as I know, Blizzard City is not a monolithic entity. Her words instantly triggered a realization in Zhang Yi. He thought, with the high prestige of the Deng family in Blizzard City, could Zhu Jing be using this opportunity to weaken the Deng family's influence?